it's a big part of everything we do here. You notice that you're doing multiple things at once. Well, that's what this is. What I became, I realized I didn't have a lot of time, so I needed to be smart with it. So if I'm doing yard work, I'm listening all the time. Because if you think about the mundane tasks, the things you hate to do, it gets a little bit better when you're listening to stuff that's making you better while you're doing the mundane. So if you're doing the dishes, doing the yard work, whatever it is, I know all of this is what I do all the time. Now, obviously, grading is a big part of my life. So grade papers, updating grades. If I'm working out, if I'm running at the gym, when I should be running at the gym, but when I do get there, and getting ready for the day. Those are times that I always listen to something. Actually, they sell Bluetooth players. They're so cheap now. But that's been the coolest new thing that's been added to my life. So I can just put my phone, play it, boom, listen to it. It makes it a lot easier. And of course, on my ride home from work, same thing. Now what do I do on my ride home? So the ride in is filling me up here. So those of you that have early commutes, that might be something that you can plug into. And when I'm going home, hopefully you're all doing this, and if you're not, just keep conquering your fears. You set an appointment. So you maximize your time. You're calling people, you're following up, you're doing what you need to when it's time and you can. And obviously following up with teammates as well. I will tell you I was coachable early. I was told not to miss training. I don't miss training. I never did. I knew that if I was going to make this real, I had to commit to it. What you're going to find if you haven't seen it yet is because no one's telling you you have to, it becomes harder than ever. That's what makes this so amazing. And that's why we get paid so well. Once you master that art, and I heard Hector Lamarck say, and I really like it, you said ADD, I'm ADHD, so that's good. We're really in the same mindset. I think I really would have been technically, well anyway, poster child when I was a kid, for sure. But the crazy part about it is, if you look at every hour in the day, and you say, am I doing the most productive thing possible with that hour? And that most productive thing possible might be playing with your kids, or hanging out with your girlfriend or boyfriend. I mean, that's real, that's part of life. But if you think that way, that's your road to success. Because other people don't. And they're not looking at their time and saying, you know what, it's valuable. It just comes and goes for a lot of us. And of course, as my confidence grew, I got more comfortable inviting people. It's kind of cool when you track the convention. I went to the first convention. Me, myself, and we were a great team. It was wonderful. That was 2011. Right? 2013, major, infinitely better. I added one, but it was probably the most important one. It was my wife. So, and then this last convention we had 8. I think it's 8 with us. So kind of cool, right? Growing, steps. All right. So as far as the crusade, everything changed for me, and what I'm going to share tonight from a technical standpoint was thanks to Jim Penn. How many people have listened to Jim Penn? You see my gamers in the room. We get paid to prospect. Okay, I highly recommend it. Write the man's name down. It'll grow your business. It'll grow your mind. It'll really help you. Anyway, we were at, you know how you said don't miss meetings? Well, this is one that I really wanted to miss because it was a Tuesday morning in the summer, 10 o'clock. I had to drive an hour and 20 minutes to get there because I live in, his office is like on the shore, and I live in Pennsylvania. So it was a trek. It was the greatest thing because you never know what meeting is going to change it, and your business will change significantly for it. You will, because you'll think differently about whatever it is that you needed at that time. And I had no idea that was going to happen. As a matter of fact, it was the farthest thing from my mind because obviously in my business, I'm really securities heavy. Too securities heavy, which is why I'm here, which is why Aaron is going to help us with the side that you guys are phenomenal with. Recruiting in this office, licensing in this office, you guys are doing a nice job. If you don't look at the numbers, look at them. You should feel proud of this office. You guys are doing a great job. When it came to Jim Penn, that's what he does well. So I was expecting to get something on that side. Meanwhile, he gave me something that was priceless from just the conversation piece. And the biggest thing is, if you haven't figured out, I have a passion for what we do. And the reality is we should. You don't have to, but it helps. And I'll tell you what. He got me to realize that when I talked to people in the kitchen table, that there were things I could do that would change the whole course of that conversation. And when I spoke with Aaron, I said, Aaron, I really want to go over the Rule 72, if you're okay with it, because it comes from this. This is exactly what happened. He gave me what I needed, and from that, I ran. And what it is, and I'll just give you a backdrop. mentality of us first them. When you sit down with a person, or when you speak to a person and then sit down with them, what do you think, honestly, is going on in the back of their mind? Give me some things that you think are going on in the back of their mind. Honestly. And reservations I'm talking about.
They're waiting for the pitch.
Yeah. What's the pitch? Who said it? What are you trying to sell me? That's exactly what happens when we go on an appointment. They think we're trying to sell them something, when we know that's not the case. But it's impossible to tell them. You can't give them a haircut over the phone. You know, you just want to sit with them so they can at least see what you've seen. Right? So the crazy part was, he got in my head and he said, when we talk about the rules, I mean, he was talking about the old days. Those of you that don't know Jim Penny, he's from the 80s and he makes over $1 million. Wonderful guy though. He's a former, doesn't matter what he was, he's just a good guy. So anyway, the cool part was he got in my head and I went, oh my gosh, the whole time. Now, I don't know if you're at this stage yet, if you're past it, but usually what happens when we're new in this business, I know I was one of them, you think the presentation is about the information. Like that's what we believe is the exchange. Let's give them all this good information. Give them all this good information. When the reality is, it is good information, and we need to share it. But what we really need to do is a couple of things. One, you get on an appointment, find common ground, and get that person who's working with it you're talking to like you. I know that's silly, but it's really what we want to do. You want them to like you. So find something common, be genuine, be sincere, and do that when you meet with them. You know, if it's a sports team and it's the same one you hey, mention it. If their kid, you know, if you saw their kid and they're well behaved, say something nice about their kid. You know, pick something. They have a beautiful house, a beautiful yard. Talk about it. People like it. That'll endear you to people. And the reality is, you're there to help. They just don't know it yet. And I heard Keith Otto say something that I held on to. This was just recently too. It's only been the last few months. He said, "I don't care what people think of me on the way in. I only care what they think of me on the way out." And I would recommend you hold that in your head, because the fact is, this business will beat you up mentally if you let it. And that's why the people that don't let it get paid really well, because they teach other people to do the same, to make a difference. Can't make a difference if they don't let you look. So the cool part was, with this, that was the big deal, because I realized when we talk about it, I'm going to go through it for you. I take, and I explained this there, and I said, I close people on the Rule 72. Now you can close people, meaning you can get them to say, okay, help me, in lots of parts of the presentation. That's my strengths. I'm going to share it with you now. Let me go to that, because this last thing just says, it's really great, now teach me a trick. How many of you have gone to events? Raise your hand if you've gone to any events. Okay, isn't it great they pump you up? You know what used to bother the heck out of me while I was trying to learn this business? I'm like, could you please teach me a skill? I swore that I'd get in front of a room one day, obviously I have at this point, and I said, and I will teach a skill, because that's what I want. I love the rah-rah, and I love people inspiring me, but could you give me something that makes my business a little bit better, just like technically? Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm phone checking. So. All right, so let me go to this, and of course the beauty of because you know, oh, it worked. All right, good. All right, so I'm going to breeze through the first part of this because we covered a little bit. But you know the rule: theory decreasing responsibility. We teach it. Great. Buy term, invest the difference. Oh my gosh, great, phenomenal. All right. I call them the rules. You can call them the ills of cash value. I've heard all of it. And then you get to the invest the difference part. Well, obviously you can't invest the difference unless you feel comfortable with investments. And you don't have to be a mastermind, you just have to know more than the average person. To at least then teach them, or have somebody who is a pro in your office, which by the way, the office does well with securities. I laugh, Aaron, I'm shouting out his numbers, he doesn't even know. That's why he's focused on building a business. The numbers aren't important. It's helping people get to the next step. He's focused on promotions, which, by the way, is what we should all be focused on. And I like that you made sure everybody knew who's got that next promotion, what do you have to do to make it happen. It's the first thing that he asked you, which I thought was great. So teach people to pay themselves first. Here's another one. You ready? He said, give you questions. I'm going to give you a question. Remember I said ask people who took personal finance class? Here's one that's just as crazy. How many of you, raise your hand, outside of maybe what you learned here, in school, were taught how much money you should save percentage-wise? Look at the room, guys. Look at the room. It's awesome, because right away, when you're sitting with a couple and they're thinking you're there to sell them, you bring the fences down. Because you get to say real legit with them, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? because we don't get taught what we need to know when it comes to that. So the cool part is I will deliver that for you. So 10% is the magic number for financial stability. So I write my stuff out, but you can either build it into a, your presentation, but it's a really cool thing because they appreciate it. They're like, now at least I know. Certain people are going to spend their money and make bad decisions until they're old enough where they don't want to anymore. But other people are disciplined, and they're like, if somebody would have taught me, I would have been doing the right thing from day one. I wasn't necessarily that person early on, but I was later on. So 10% for financial stability. And I'll say to the client, I'll say, listen, you're not going to live a lavish lifestyle, but you won't worry about money. And think about how many people stress about money. Is that a real thing? And you ask a question. Now, the other thing is, remember, when it comes to appointments, the real power in appointments is the questions, which, by the way, I made a PDF of just questions that I ask on these. So get as many as you can, but if I don't cover them all, you'll be able to look back on it and see. And then, so what does that mean? Like, if you look at the numbers, by the way, quick trick, 10%. If somebody's making $500 a week, raise your hand if you know, don't pull it out. How much would 10% of 500 be? Okay, so the good part is, that's one thing that throws people in this, but they think they have to be numbers people. You don't have to be a numbers person. Cover up the last number. All right, 500, cover up the last number. What number would you have if you had 500, 500, and you covered up the 0? Now what do you have? That's the beauty. So whatever number they tell you, just cover up the last one and say, well, we should be saving $50 a month. Makes you look like a genius. It's free. All right? And then, so 10%, right? So that's it. So, or it's 500 a week. So it's $50 a week. So when you look at this, the average person coming out of school is making, this is what they say. I deal with so many people that they're not making this, but let's just say 45 grand a year. So that means they should be saving, covered up, $4,500 a year. Do you think most 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds are saving $4,500 a year? How much do they need your help? Think about that. What happens in this business is we get beat up so much because we're not where we want to be from a development. At least is what I think and what I see. We beat ourselves up because we're not where we want to be development-wise because this is foreign to us. But the reality is they need us as much as air. What you're going to do when you sit with a family is you're going to change their lives and the next generation and the next generation because they'll make sure it doesn't happen to their kids, which is beautiful. Now remember, those of you that are worried about saturation, we have a 2% market share. 1 point whatever. Do you know what it was when I started? 1 point whatever. Do you know what it was when my vice president, who's been in the business 17 years? 1 point whatever. Don't worry about saturation. Just help as many people as you can while they need it. Do you think when you're 23 years old, 22 years old, you can get by with $40,500 a year if that's your situation? Could you make ends meet? Now, if you want wealth, save 20%. 20% will create wealth. What does that look like? That means you have 45 grand, save 9, spend 36. If you're living at home, which most 20-something years olds are, can you get by with 36 grand? If you knew the value of saving, and that's what we're not taught, so it just adds more value for you guys, because that's what you want to do. You want to get in front of people and add value, and teach them what they need to do early, and develop those habits often, and next thing you know, you've changed their life forever. So, are people taught the high cost of waiting? How many people have seen this slide? Good job. I see my veterans in the room. Good job. I tweaked it a little bit. I made it $200 a month because you know what? People need to be saving at least $200 a month. I don't care how bad it is. We have figured out a way to free up money for them, but they need to save that much. Or they need to work with us. Pick one. So $200 a month over a 45-year work career. What are we talking about? Hey, 1.4 million, almost 1.5. Could you get by in retirement with 1.5 million? $200 a month. $200 a month. It's $2,400 a year. I'm not even talking about 10 or 20%. But we're not taught. And because we're not taught, we don't realize how much we're giving up. This next part will boggle your mind. Do you know how much money you give up from your retirement if you wait just 1 year? 1 year. It's almost 10%. That $1,200, that 1 year when you're 23, now instead of having 1.5 million, you're down to 1.3 and change. And this is what I always ask clients. This is another one you want to ask. When, and the way I phrase it, I would recommend it. When do you think people get serious about saving for retirement? When do people, and answer the question, that's great, good, throw it out. You said 40, I like it, good. Anybody else have a different answer, or 40 sound right?
When they're getting close to retirement.
Yeah, and that's the reality of our lives. Most people, and if you think about when it's easy, it's in your 20s. But we wait because we don't know what we're giving up. That's your value. That's why they need to get you in front. When you ask for referrals, this should be easy. Because if you create the value on the front end, they're like, listen, you need to talk to my kids, if they're older. Or you need to talk to my buddy. You need to talk to my brother, which is what we want. So you wait, and we said 40. By the way, 44 and 46 are the two studies, so whoever said 40, nice job, you're right on the money. So that means when we're 30, we just gave up more than half our retirement without even knowing it. Is this something that they could have learned before they left high school?
Yes.
Would it have been valuable?
Yes.
I teach high school, so I mean, I think what I do is valuable, but it's crazy that this isn't being taught. And then if you wait till you're 40 like most of us, now what? You missed the boat. And I'll show you how I share this with clients as far as unfolding the conversation. How hard is it to get folks started? It's not hard if they understand the value, but it's all about understanding the value. They might not give you as much as they should when you have your securities license, but they're going to start something with you, and they'll thank you for it years from now, and they'll be a referral source for the rest of their lives. I heard this once, which I think is so true. They don't get, when somebody has a financial need, and oh no, you should talk to my financial guy. It doesn't matter they're putting $50 a month in. They tell their friend, a financial guy, that friend could be doing a rollover and it could be hundreds of thousands because they're in between jobs or their dad or whatever. So keep that in mind because it's a big part of our business. So we get taught where to put our money. Right? There's the three buckets or the three accounts that you should set up. So if you're saving $400 a month, 200 goes in an emergency fund, 100 goes in a short-term account, 100 goes into a wealth building account. And I teach the family, how do I have this conversation? Emergency fund, I'll write over here, 2 to 3 months of expenses. Because right now the banks are paying us so little, I can't stomach the fact that we put any money in the bank, but we have to. The short term, I call it their second layer emergency fund. And I also talk to it as, this is your spending account, meaning, and you used a good phrase. House account. Yeah. I like that.
You want to buy a house?
That's it. And that's what I talk about. House account. You want to upgrade the house, you want to buy a house, that's what I say to the client. Very good. And then of course wealth building, throw the phrase Roth IRA and 401k. Right? Roth IRA is the one that grows tax-free forever.